In this video clip, we're going to practice the algebra method, which is discussed in an earlier video clip. Solve the following simultaneous equations. Right, well, before we go through the steps on how we'll solve these equations, I'd like you to have a go at it yourself, and then using the pause button and then proceed. So here we go, solving the simultaneous equations using the 6-step approach. Step 1 is to rearrange the equations into the form ax plus by equals c, where a, b and c are constants or numbers. So 4x equals 16 minus 6y. Here we need to bring the minus 6y over the equal sign to produce 4x plus 6y, and that's equal to 16. We're going to label that equation 1. 2y equals 5 minus x. We're going to bring the minus x over the equal sign to become a plus x, together with the 2y on the left hand side equals 5. We're going to label that equation 2. Then we're going to move on to the next step. And this is to match up corresponding terms of either x or y. Well, I'm choosing to match up the x terms, and I'm going to do that by multiplying equation 2 by 4. When I do that, I get 4x plus 8y equals 20, and I'm going to label this equation 3. I'm now going to bring down equation 1 and relabel it equation 4, and you can see I've matched up the two x terms. Now, to eliminate these x terms that I've matched up, I either have to add the two equations or subtract them. Well, in this case, I'm going to subtract them, because when I subtract equation 3 from equation 4, on the left hand side I'm going to get the 4x minus 4x will cancel, and we'll be left with 8y minus 6y. And on the right hand side I'm going to get 20 minus 16, which reduces down to 2y equals 4, or if we move on to the step 4 and solve the resulting equation 2y equals 4, we end up with y equals 2. Step 5 is to substitute the values that we've just got into equation 1 and solve. So going back to equation 1 and plugging in our value of y equals 2, we find that 4x plus 6 times 2 equals 16, or 4x plus 12 equals 16, and taking the 12 over the equal sign, we end up with 4x equals 4, or x equals 1. So we now have a value for x and y, and we need to substitute these back into equation 2 and check that the equation holds. Equation 2 is x plus 2y equals 5. If I plug in the values of x equals 1 and y equals 2, on the left hand side you can see that 1 plus 4 equals 5. That's correct, and therefore our solution is x equals 1 and y equals 2. Here's a second example. We're going to solve the equations 3x plus 8y equals 24 and x plus y equals 3. Pause the video, have a go yourself, and then proceed watching the video. Okay, so you've had a go. Using the 6-step approach, let's go through it. We'll rearrange both equations into the form ax plus by equals c. Well, in this case, they've already been rearranged for us. We don't need to do anything other than label them equations 1 and equations 2. So that's nice and easy. So moving on to step 2, we're going to match up corresponding terms of either x or y. Well, I'm going to choose to match the x terms again, and I'll do that by multiplying equation 2 by 3. So I'll get 3x plus 3y equals 9, and I'll call that equation 3. And I bring down equation 1 and relabel it equation 4. Okay, now you can see that I've matched the two x terms as I intended to do, and I can move on to step 3. Well, step 3 is to add or subtract the equations to eliminate the matched terms. So here are our equations. Clearly I need to subtract the two equations in order to eliminate the x terms. So the 3x minus 3x will cancel out, and leave us with 3y minus 8y on the left hand side and 9 minus 24 on the right hand side. When I simplify this equation, I get minus 5y equals minus 15, and I move on to the next step 4, which is to solve the resulting equation. This is again very simple. All I've got to do is divide both sides by minus 5. The minuses cancel out and we're left with plus 15 over plus 5 on the right hand side, and 5 into 15 goes 3 times, so we're left with y equals 3. Now we move on to the step 5, which is to substitute the value you've got back into equation 1 and solve. So I'm substituting the value of y equals 3 back into this equation. I end up with 3x plus 8 times 3 equals 24, or 3x plus 24 equals 24. When I take the 24 over the equal sign, they cancel out and produce 0, so I end up with 3x equals 0, or x equals 0. And that brings me to the final step 6, which is to substitute my values of x and y into equation 2 and check that it holds. Well, there's equation 2, x plus y equals 3. Substituting 0 and 3 for x and y, you can see it definitely holds, and therefore our solution is x equals 0 and y equals 3.